Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. We're very glad you're with us this morning. It is January 21st, 2022. Our agenda this morning, we'll start out with success stories. I do know of one landing. We'll then go to our 30-second introductions. We'll have you put that into the chat window. We'll then hear from our committees, workshop, job fairs, practice interview team, interview success workshop, the career tip of the week. And then we will have our main event coming up around 9:55 or 10 o'clock today. For those on Zoom, we ask that if you have any questions throughout the entire presentation, please open up the Zoom chat window, have it open, stick your questions in there just as soon as you think about them. For those watching on Facebook, you're welcome to enter your questions information into the comment field. I am monitoring that information monitoring that feed. So if you have any questions, we'll be sure to get those questions answered for you. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. The group's been around since the late 1990s. I took it over in 2007 when the leader of the group got a job and said who wanted to take over, and I guess I must have volunteered. So I've been doing that since 2007. In 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org to help those in the Dallas-Fort Worth area by putting everything you need to know about your job search in one place. In 2012, I started a second website. Hard to believe it's been almost 10 years ago. Launched careerusa.org to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search That You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team. You'll hear more about that wonderful, great organization in just a second. Well, we like to start the meeting off with good news. Do we have any landings? Anybody like to make any announcements about landing? Going once, going twice. Okay, well, the one landing I've heard of is Daniel Bumgartner. He says he's waiting for all the paper to come through in his official first day and to announce his official first day before he's announced that he's officially landed on LinkedIn. So, but to say, he said, networking did work to land me this job. They came looking for me. So the qualifications he had on LinkedIn and the networking, people reached out to him because of who he was. Many thanks for the Career DFW sites and the group of helps and teachers. Yes, I'm calling them teachers that help all of us navigate this new way to get hired. So congratulations to Daniel. I'm not sure where he's landed yet, so we'll find out when he updates his LinkedIn profile. Last call, anybody? Any landings? All right, we'll move on. Okay, what we'd like you to do now is please open up the chat window, and we'd like you to put in your 30-second introductions. Tell us your name, comma, phone number, comma, email address, comma, position you're looking for, comma, 2 or 3 target companies, and then hit the return key. That way I will take all this information. I will put it out into an email this afternoon. Please see who you can help. How can you help somebody else in their job search? Look over that list of people. Who can you, and network with these people, connect with these people on LinkedIn. If you don't have 500 connections, you want to expand your connections. So I encourage you to, get your information, put in the chat window. Also, I use the information that you put in the chat window to update the roster. So if you don't put your contact information in the chat window, you won't be considered here for the on the agenda, and you won't get that email this afternoon with all the information on it. And if TWC were to come back and come looking for information, we won't find it. I won't have you on the roster as being here. So we ask that you please go through and put that in there. So we'll put 30 seconds on the clock. All right, you're welcome to continue getting your information in there. That would be great. Okay, it's time to hear about some job career fairs, training, and workshops. It looks like the calendar is picking up. Good morning, Eldon.
Hi, Jeff. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. As Jeff said, my name is Eldon Zarinsky, and I'm here to bring you information about this week's career and job fairs, as well as special workshops or events. The information that I go over comes from the calendar tab on the website careerdfw.org, which is on the screen in front of you. The various colors indicate the various different topical things that the calendar covers. If you are not familiar with the calendar, I urge you to go in and look around there and see what's going on in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. There's a plethora of information on the calendar. All right, I go through these items fairly quickly, so if you hear something you like, I urge you again to go to the calendar, click on that item, and find out whether or not there's a link there for more information and or registration. Career and job fairs this week. The Arlington Career Fair, virtual by National Career Fairs, will be held Tuesday, January 25th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. For more information, go to the link on the calendar. The Boeing IT and Data Analytical Virtual Career Event will be held Wednesday, January 26th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And there is a registration link on the calendar for that one. The State Farm Virtual Career Fair will be held Thursday, January 27th from 10 a.m. to noon. And there is a registration link for that one as well. This week's special workshops or events, since the IoT thing is already ongoing and probably already over by now, I'll skip that one. The first event this coming week is today's World of Work. Will be held Monday, January 24th from 12:30 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. There's a Zoom link for that, and this is sponsored by the Senior Source. Also online, LinkedIn Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Join Locke Alderson, Terry Sullivan, Ruth Lipsky, or Kurt Vondemutter each week for an online session on LinkedIn. They're very different presentations from one another. It teaches you the different aspects of how to use LinkedIn. I urge you to participate in that one if you haven't already. There's a Zoom link and a Facebook link for that event. Also online, the Who You Know Career Transition Summit will be held Wednesday, January 26th from 10 a.m. to noon. There's a registration link on the calendar for that one. That event is hosted by Foster Williams, who's one of our local area recruiters. And if you don't know Foster, I strongly urge you to get to know him. Online interviewing Wednesdays at 1 p.m. New for 2022. You can now observe a practice interview from the pit crew each Wednesday. For Wednesday, there will be a virtual practice slot at 1 p.m. that will be in webinar format. That means that observers will be allowed to view the session. Only the candidate and the panelists will be visible to the observers. There is a Zoom link and a Facebook link for, no, that one is just Zoom, I think. I don't see the Facebook.
Yes, Zoom only.
Zoom only. Also online, the networking webinar, Thursday, January 27th from 1 p.m. to 2:15 p.m. Join Career DFW and careerusa.org on the second and fourth Thursdays of each month from 1 p.m. to 2:15 p.m. Central for their networking seminar. There is a Zoom link and a Facebook link for that. They'll have a different speaker each session talking about networking. And that's it for this week.
Eldon, thank you very, very much. All right, if you happen to know somebody who's unemployed, we saw the unemployment numbers this past week actually went up to 289,000 people filed first-time unemployment benefits. They think a lot of it's due to COVID, but if you happen to know somebody who's unemployed, please tell them about Career DFW and Career USA, two free websites that people can use to help them in their job search. All right, it's time to hear from the practice interview team. Good morning, Mark.
Hey, Jeff, good morning. And there's my contact information in the chat window. And let me tell you a little bit about the Pick Group. So we're all about giving you a very realistic interview experience, and it's customized and personalized to your situation, which means you provide the job description. And of course, you give us your resume as well. And we prepare in advance. So I'll need that job description 2 to 3 days ahead of the time when you'd like to practice. And we have practice interviews on Tuesday evenings, on Wednesday afternoon at 1 o'clock, and on Thursday afternoon at 3 o'clock. So we have set dates and set times this year. So there's 4 time slots available. The pit crew is getting back in this groove. We did 4 interviews this week, and I had to turn one away because it was too late. We were already full. So I think it was kind of slow, looking back, it was kind of slow in the fourth quarter, slower than it has been in the past. But now it's starting to pick up as well. So don't wait too long to schedule your practice interview. And that means you may practice with a job opportunity that you're not really engaged in, and that's okay. Just go and find your dream job, the description of what your dream job is, and send that into the PIC crew, and we'll give you a chance to practice. Because every time you practice, you're going to build your confidence. You're going to learn how to deal with interview situations, and so we encourage you to practice early and practice often. And if you're wondering what it's going to be like, we now have on Wednesday afternoons, as Eldon mentioned, a practice interview that you can observe. You need to do this in real time, though. We don't post them up afterwards. So show up at 1 o'clock, and there's a link on Jeff's site. And I'll also post up a document here when I'm done that's got the link to the Wednesday afternoon session. So it's open to the public, and you'll get to see what a practice interview is like. And I'm sure you'll learn something as well. But knowing is not doing. And so you'll learn a lot, and you'll know what you need to do when you watch a practice interview, but you need to come and practice yourself to find out what you're really going to do when someone asks you, why did you leave your last job? And don't you think you're overqualified for this position? And you don't really have very much small company experience. So those kinds of things we'll be asking during the practice interview, and you'll get a chance to answer them. The PIC crew also offers one-way practice interviews. So that if you'd like to hear about that, just send me an email and I'll send you back some information about it. And of course, all the emails go to dallaspiccrew@gmail.com. There's my LinkedIn profile, which gives me a chance to talk about, I also coach, and I coach on just one question. I'm not a general purpose coach. I specialize in answering the question, why did you leave your last position? But there's my LinkedIn profile. You can go to LinkedIn and search on the PIC crew, or you can search on my name and include the middle initial, and I'll show up very close to the top. And then let me say that quite a few people, actually 8, I think it was maybe 9 panelists landed last year. So these are the people who volunteer to give the interviews. And so I'm still looking to build up my roster of interviewers. And so the only prerequisite to be a member of the PIC crew is that you've been a hiring manager as part of your professional responsibility. So if you're ready to give back to the job search community, just give me a call and I'll tell you how to get involved. And you may, have friends that are working who would be interested in as well. And so on Tuesday evenings now at 5 and at 6:15, we have sessions, practice sessions. And so volunteers who, work during normal business hours could also volunteer at that time. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Mark. All right, it's time to hear about the interview success workshop. Good morning, Walt.
Well, good morning, everyone. The calendar says it's winter. The lack of leaves on the trees says it's winter. It's cold outside. That says it's winter. I'm beginning to think it's winter. And you know what? For me, below 60 degrees is cold. So when I moved to Dallas, I moved up north. So I'm really living in the North Territory here from Florida. So what do? Well, I like to help you with skills and confidence for a really successful job interview. And I do this by paying attention to some fundamentals, and that's how do we sell ourselves? There are 3 components of selling ourselves, and that's who we are, our characteristics, our soft skills, our personality, what we do, that's our experience, the things that we've done, the certification, the education, those kinds of things. And then there's the I help, which is the value of how we take ourselves and who we are and what we do, and say to help achieve these types of things for the company. See, companies don't hire us just to do things. They hire us to see that we fit in the culture, that we have the experience and can do the job, that we will do the job, and what's the value? What are those results? So how do we pay attention to that? So I do this workshop. It's very informal. Man, I've got an IT background. It's actually over 40 years, but I'm thinking I'm going to say over 30 and just leave it at that in the future. But nonetheless, a lot of hiring going on and growth in a company called EDS back in the days when it was called EDS. So what do we really pay attention to? A differentiation along with those elements that I just discussed so that we are memorable. How do we make that connection? How do we build rapport? So we're talking about some fundamental questions in categories. So we look at openings and closings, negative questions, salary, the STAR stories for behavioral interviewing, and discuss those things. So we have some fun along the way. This is just a learning experience. Then you want to follow that up with, you can come back to the interview workshop and do a more realistic interview with questions taken from your job description and resume. And you want to follow up with the pit crew, because when I first looked around to see what I might do after I retired, I thought the pit crew was just an excellent way to help us get that job and do it better. So now putting together with this, you can learn the fundamentals and you can practice and do it as many times as you like. There's a record of somebody done, I don't know, 10 or 12. I can't remember, Mark. I know that there's been a lot. And I remember one person landing saying, you know, the real interview was so much easier. And we said, well, of course. Why do you think that is? Because they practice, and they practice several times. So that's what we're trying to do. I also will do the one-way interview. We cover the categories of questions and let you practice that. Just let me know if you want to sign up for that. And in the meantime, I will tell you this, it's not a hot seat. You don't have to have anxiety. You don't have to worry about your life flashing in front of your eyes. All you have to do is come down and you can have the interview success workshop where we have learning without squirming. In case you may not have heard before, I invite you through the practice interview door. The workshop is small and learning can be fun. Register and discover how your interview can be won.
Good. Thank you very much, Walt. All right, it's time to hear the career tip of the week, which you can find on the Career DFW and Career USA websites. Good morning, Liz.
Well, good morning, Jeff, and good morning, everyone. The tip of the week is, with virtual interviews here to stay, best practices are needed, by Roy Maurer. The use of video conferencing technology for virtual job interviews exploded during the COVID-19 pandemic, and surveys show that the practice has become part of the hiring process for good. A recent poll of 1,100 United States employers conducted by Indeed found that 82% of the respondents said they adopted virtual interviews for candidates because of the pandemic, and nearly all, or 93%, expected to continue to use virtual interviews in the future. Another survey from recruiting software provider JobVite found that 61% of the surveyed recruiters said the hiring process will be a combination of virtual and in-person going forward, while 22% said they plan to conduct all virtual hiring. You have employers who are going to continue doing video interviews because they've adopted a remote hybrid work environment and need the solution to interview candidates remotely, as well as expand their talent pool, says Josh Tolan, CEO of Spark Hire out of Chicago. Employers have noted multiple benefits to virtual interviews, including a shorter time to hire, a more streamlining hiring process, and a better candidate experience for some because applicants have more control over when and where they interview. Tolan noted that the distinction between the two most prevalent types of virtual interviews, which are live video interviews, which are being used as a replacement for in-person interviews in a remote environment, and a one-way video interview, typically used earlier in the hiring process as a preliminary screening interview, not meant to replace face-to-face live interaction. Not only does the standardized and preliminary interview process with all candidates answering the same questions, but it also boosts hiring collaboration as hiring managers are able to provide input earlier on, resulting in better downstream hiring outcomes. The candidate also benefits since the employer can interview more people, giving candidates more opportunities. He emphasized that with all the candidates answering the same questions, they're on an even playing field. There is also a health and safety component to virtual interviews. 84% of the employers surveyed by Indeed say they are still using video interviews to mitigate risk amid the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. In-person experience is tough to beat. Even with all the benefits of virtual interviews, a majority of the recruiters surveyed by JobVite still consider an in-person meeting to be better interview experience. Over 3/4 or 77% of respondents said an in-person interview was preferable in 2020 compared with just 62% this year. And 21% chose video as the most effective way to conduct interviews this year compared with 11% in 2020. I would agree that an in-person experience is better for the candidate and hiring manager, said Tim Sackett, SHRM SCP, a talent acquisition expert and president of HRU Technical Resources out of Lansing, Michigan. When I conduct interviews, I can see body language better and am more likely to have a better experience with someone. Over video, it may not be bad, but I don't think it will ever be superior. When comparing live video interviews to an in-person experience, most would agree that in-person is desirable, but it also has its limitations. Those limitations include not being feasible or economical for employers shifting to a remote environment and the difficulty of aligning the schedules of interviews and candidates who have to block off time to travel to the interview. So while the actual in-person interaction might be more desirable, there's still a case that the flexibility, cost savings, and collaboration of live video interviews present benefits to all parties. You also need to consider the shifting candidate market and what their preferences are for interviews. Carrie Gilliam, Vice President of Marketing at JobVite, said, "The more you know about the likes and dislikes of a person you are trying to recruit, the better job you can do outlining the ideal candidate journey and knowing their communication and interview preferences." Amber Ferrari, marketing manager of JobVite, agreed, saying it's important for recruiters to use their discretion for when to offer virtual versus in-person interviews because these recruiters should know what is going to make the interview most comfortable and most likely to connect with the organization. There are a lot of moving pieces to consider, including equity issues, Sackett said. I think if you are going to have a virtual interviews, you have to put everyone through the same interview experience. If the first interview is virtual, all first interviews should be virtual. If you bring people in for an interview, all candidates should have the opportunity to have that in-person experience. Well, good luck, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Liz, thank you very, very much. All right, coming up here in just a few minutes, the main event, Fred Shlesinger will be with us to talk about how to be a better brand. This is part 2 of 2. If you were not with us last week, in the email I put out this afternoon with everybody's contact information, I'll put the link to last week's video so you can go back and watch session 1. Coming up next week, next Friday, Elizabeth Lyons will be with us to talk about job seeking post-pandemic 2022. She's done, Elizabeth, beside all the fun things she does, she's also a recruiter, and she's gotten some really good information from her company as far as what they're predicting and what they're foreseeing. So she'll share that information with us next Friday. And then the first Friday in February, we will have open forum. We will talk about whatever you want to talk about, whatever topics you have and what you'd like to talk about. So it's time for our main event. The only thing is Fred is not quite with us yet because we're actually a couple minutes early right now. So let me stop sharing here. I guess
Heard that.
Huh? I guess my first question for everybody would be, who was not on the call last week? If you can either raise your hand, or if you didn't see the presentation last week, please put something in the chat box to say did not see or something. Anybody? Okay, there is 1, 2. I tell you what, I'm going to put in the chat box right now. Here's the handout from last week. It's the same handout last week as the week before. So we're glad you're with us just today. You'll be able to jump in on part 2 when Fred joins us, and you can go back and watch part 1. Like I said, I'll put the link in there so that you can see it. So thank you for joining us this week. Right now, I guess, let me just, if somebody's got a question until Fred joins us, anybody have a question they'd like to throw out there for the group? Welcome to unmute your mic and ask away. Anyone? Question? Anybody go through last week's handout? Yes, Leon.
Oh, I was just going to ask, is there just any kind of key setup for, or is he going to kind of review what he did last week, or?
I think in the past, he has gone back and reviewed a little bit about what he talked about in the prior week. But if not, like I said, I'll put the link out in the email today and you can go back and watch it. Just remember the link is the entire last Friday's meeting. So you want to zoom in about 25 minutes to get where his recording actually starts.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Any other questions, comments? See, Mark and Walt didn't talk long enough today, so that's why we're early. Liz had a nice long tip of the week.
I can add something. Normally when I talk about the interview success workshop, I use the basketball comparison, but I guess today I could talk about baseball, because you're not going to be able to play baseball if you can't run, throw, catch, hit, and spit.
That was good.
All right, I'm texting Fred now to see if see where he's at.
Well, since we have a couple of minutes, let me encourage you to encourage Leon. He practiced with the pit crew on Wednesday, so everybody got the benefit of his learning experience. And I know many of you, some of you, maybe many of you would feel very uncomfortable practicing on Wednesday when others can see you. But I'll tell you how it goes. You forget that anybody's watching. You focus in on your panelists and answering the questions, and you give a lot of benefit to those who watch. And I say this all the time to the panelists, and I don't think it's hyperbole. Everyone benefits a little, and some people, when they practice or watch a practice interview, have a life-changing experience because they learned something that makes all the difference in getting back to work. So if you're going to practice, consider practicing on Wednesday so other people can benefit from your experience. Thanks.
Great. All right, well, our speaker is with us. For those who heard him last week, you know who Fred is. He's decided that I guess it's too chilly to be sitting outside. He looks like he's got a little sleepy time in his eyes because he probably was up watching tennis all night last night.
Absolutely.
So Fred, thank you for being with us, and I'll let you take it away.
Well, good morning to everybody. We have a nice group. I think we're right around 25, 26. And I want to welcome everybody to part 2 of our branding workshop. Wanted to give the respect to those of you that weren't able to participate in our part 1 last Friday, or didn't have a chance to watch the recording on YouTube. So I'm going to take a few minutes and give everybody a running head start. We talked about, do me a favor, Jeff, can you put up page 1? I'm just going to quickly give an overview or a review. For those of you that weren't on the call last Friday, I'm Fred Shlesinger, and I have reinvented myself or rebranded myself 3 times over the last 47 years. For 27 years, I was involved in the very high end of the men's clothing business. And in the late 90s, early 2000s, that industry was decimated through corporate casual and business casual, and the industry literally went away. And today it's a shell of what it was in its demise over 20 years ago. And so in the early 2000s, I reinvented myself as a financial advisor and built up a very successful practice. And a year ago, October, I sold that practice to a younger advisor to enter in what I call a hybrid retirement life. But now I have the ability of pursuing my true passion, which is tennis. So I'm a USPTA certified teaching professional. And I spent 2021 building up my tennis business, which is going very strong. And during the last 7 or 8 years, I have developed this branding workshop and become a branding coach to many people that I've met over the years. Jeff has had me speak to his career DFW group for the better part of 10 years, different topics, but the last 5 years has been branding. And those of you that weren't on the call understand that branding has become such an important, not so much hot, but an important topic, not in corporate America, in business in general, whether it's small business owners, medium-sized business owners, and certainly in corporations. I'm now being asked to come into some of these companies and be a branding consultant for people at a very high level in the corporate chain, and for small business owners that want to redefine their sales force. So particularly if you're in sales and marketing, it should be a relatively easy transition for you to be able to brand yourself if you're young and just getting into the workforce, or if you're mature and you want to rebrand yourself like I did. If you're in sales and marketing and have that mentality, it'll be a lot easier versus having a software mentality or a accounting mentality. It's going to be a little tougher, because what it's all about in your opportunity search is selling yourself. So when you finally do land an interview, whether it's a Zoom interview or in-person interview, I want you to be able to be fully equipped to put your best foot forward and sell yourself as a brand that will add value and will be able to problem solve whatever problems that are brought to you by the company, by the division head, by the department head, by the owner, whatever the case may be. Because, and I've said this many times on these calls, you're being hired for one reason and one reason only: to solve problems, whether it's accounting problems, operational problems, supply chain problems, sales problems. I have never seen a company that says, you know what, we're good, we have enough sales. Every company is always looking for sales. And right now, with this, the whole oddity of this pandemic that we've been thrown into, this has become a surreal business environment. And due to all these dynamics, the market has turned around dramatically, and it is so favorable for you to be able to land an opportunity, as opposed to 2.5 years ago, when the market, if you think about it and you look at it, was very, very different. And I would deliver these workshops to Jeff's organization, Jewish Family Services, Senior Source, and I can remember saying that statistically there were 200 applicants for one job. This is going back a few years ago. Well, that whole balance has reshifted, and companies are looking for you. They want you. And it's really a matter of how aggressive, how proactive you want to be in landing your next opportunity. And you notice I don't use the J word. I don't like the J word. I really believe that if you get hired, you get hired to enjoy an opportunity and not do a job. And I think that that's evolved over the last few years. So on page 1, Jeff, just to give a quick review, and I was just giving you an overview about myself, so you'll all feel very comfortable. Keep in mind that in the chat box, it's there for your interactivity. So if you have anything you'd like to share, we had quite a few participants last Friday that were extremely textual, so versus verbal, textual. You like that, Jeff? And they participated. The more interaction I have, even with this Zoom call, the better it is. We all learn from each other, in addition to hopefully learning from me. So we talked about paradigms, and I wanted you to come up with the paradigm about yourself. How do you see yourself? And how do you see you shifting or evolving to becoming a better you? So I had asked you last week to take some time, you had the whole week to do this, and describe yourself as who you are, not what you are. And so many times when we go to a networking function, we immediately go into our diatribe of what we are, okay? What jobs we held, what credentials we had. But I believe firmly, ladies and gentlemen, that people get hired for who they are. I believe in the intangibles, and the intangibles are who they are. The what of you is very tangible. You know, you're a project manager, you're an account executive, you're a marketing specialist, whatever. That's all what. I have all these credentials, I have the experience, and I'm generically reliable, blah, 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 blah. These people that are hiring are really tired of hearing trite, generic words. So the whole point of this is to create an exciting, fresh, new spin on yourself. A little later on one of the pages, I give you an acronym of PASSION, and it's put a special spin in and on you using PASSION as an acronym. So does anybody want to play? Did anybody take the time to jot down 3 to 6 words that describe who you are? And for those of you that are new to the call or new to my speaking, this is going to be a stair step or building blocks. So we're going to take these things and we're going to be moving you towards creating that brand. So I don't have anybody responding or playing, and that's
If
okay.
somebody wants to unmute your mic, you're welcome to unmute your mic.
Yes.
And tell us, Jerry, you want to tell us what your words were?
Jump in.
Yeah, I got mentor, meticulous, funny, detail-oriented, analytical, and patient.
Funny, Jerry, like a clown, like I make you laugh. Funny, like a I'm kidding.
Right.
I'm
And looking.
I'm a movie buff, so, and Goodfellas is one of my favorite movies. Thank you, Jerry. And those are great. I love funny. I love funny, but you have to be careful for the opportunity that you're looking for, because frankly, Jerry, no company wants a funny accountant. Okay, so you see, you have to be able to put into words, and that's who you are. I get that. But if you're in sales and marketing, or you're in client care, funny, having a sense of humor is a golden intangible. So what area are you in, or what opportunity are you seeking, Jerry? If I may unmute your mic, please.
Accounting. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, you know what? That could be on your business card. The
I'm a
funny
government
accountant.
contractor.
Okay, the funny accountant, and we're going to laugh through profits or something like that. That's okay. Have fun with it. You know, don't be so serious about it. And that's part of my message to you. So then we move on. If nobody else wants to participate other than Jerry, we move on to what 3 to 6 words who you need to be. In other words, if you're not where you are within the who in you, then what do you need to be to get what you want out of life? And that doesn't only mean your next opportunity. It might mean to find a significant other. It might mean to be a better parent. It might mean to be a better friend. So this is very far reaching, and it's not solely relegated to business. Next page, please, Jeff. Just in the review stage. So we talked about what is branding, and it's your promise that they could expect, your audience could expect something unique, different, or special. So to put this into context, when you do go into your interview, you want to be able to deliver something unique, different, and special. And then I gave a few examples of iconic, successful brands like BMW, what makes them unique? There's one word that makes them unique. Nike, what makes them unique? The Yankees, what makes them unique? And Apple. And so the one word that comes to mind immediately with BMW is engineering. Nike would be vision or fashion. Yankees, one word, winning. They've won the most world championships of any Major League Baseball club. I believe it's 26. And Apple, the one word that you could use to describe Apple is innovative. So take those iconic brands and picture yourself as a brand, and what would people use as one word to describe you? So I'm giving you 3 to 6 words of the who of you. And the soul of these companies are those words. That's what's made them successful for, in some cases, over 100 years. The Yankees have been around over 100 years. BMW has been around a good 75, 80 years, and on and on. So let's continue and let's really get into the heart of what you are all about. You are all about value. And the definition is the regard that something is held to deserve importance, worth, or usefulness. How important are you to the people in your life? Whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's business associates. And I want you to step back, look in the mirror and say, how important am I? And if you're not important or you don't feel you're important, create an importance, create a value, create a worth. And so what I asked everybody to do on last Friday's call was to sit down and introspectively create your own value brand statement, and not the old, dusty, antiquated elevator speech, using adjectives, superlatives to create a competitive advantage. So did anybody take the time to do that? Did anybody create a new and improved value brand statement? I'm sorry, Leora. Nurturing, caring, mentoring, training, meticulous, ambitious, team player. Love that. Love team player. Love ambitious. I want you to be able to come across in the interview and understand the word I'm about to use as hungry for an opportunity, not desperate, not I haven't eaten in 3 weeks. I'm talking about hungry, thirsty for a new opportunity. I'm open to assimilate myself into your culture. I've done a lot of research about the culture of your company, and it's one of the reasons why I'm on this interview, because I think it speaks volumes for who you are as a company, and I feel very comfortable being a part of that because that's my personal culture, okay? People don't use that phrase, personal culture. And when you're in the interview, you say, my personal culture marries or blends or works very well with your corporate culture. That's why I'm on this Zoom interview or sitting in front of you. Any response to that? I hope you're all listening. I hope you're all enjoying this, and I hope you're all benefiting from it. So just give me some.
Well, Leon put down that marketing scientist.
Okay. All right. How does everybody feel about marketing scientist? So you meet Leon at a networking happy hour, a connection get together, and Leon says, "I'm Leon Nesbitt, and who are you?" And he talks about who he is, but then he says, and then they say, "Well, what do you do, Leon?" And he says, "I'm a marketing scientist." So quickly, just in the chat box, how does that sound? So as you're busy typing away, what I like about it is it's a phrase that nobody has heard before, or very few people have heard before. I haven't heard it before, but that doesn't mean that it didn't exist. So what I like about it, Leon, and I don't know if this is the reason you chose those 2 words, what I like about it, and I'll get back to you, Jerry, in a second, is what it elicits is, a market scientist? I never heard of that. Tell me more. So if that, Leon, was your intent, then it's bordering on brilliant, because
Well,
you
it came up.
wanna-
So it came up in my interview yesterday, and so a lot of marketing, the biggest issues are no one understands what works. So there's a lot of heavy emphasis on analytics, and so scientists, know exactly what works, and so that's why, as a concept, it resonated really well with the people I was interviewing with yesterday.
I love it. But also, can you see that it's a kind of a surprise factor when you tell somebody that that's what I am? You're going to get, I would bet, 8 out of 10 people going, huh, what is that, Leon? And
Well,
that is your pathway to really talk about yourself.
And it did. It opened the door to, because a lot of digital marketing is hypothesis testing, and it opened the door to childhood scientific experiments, and that took us in a whole different direction. But it's getting that kind of discipline into, what's the hypothesis, what's the data, what's the procedure, what are the results, what are we going to do next time, kind of conversation, which is really beneficial. So
Because of this pandemic environment we're in, science has become the topic, and it's on everybody's mind about science, whether it's developing the vaccines or whatever, antibodies, that type of thing. So I love it. I'm surprised I've never heard that phrase, and I would say most of the people on the call haven't either. But I love the fact that you have taken the time to create a unique brand, and that's what this workshop is all about. So kudos to you, Leon. Thank you. Leora asked, what was the culture phrase again? Can anybody recant what I said? I can, but I want to see if anybody was actually listening to me, and just type it in for Leora's edification. JAMA, intriguing, will definitely prompt more conversation. I don't understand how the two words go together. Well, maybe you do now, Jerry. Hopefully you do now. And I think Leon did a wonderful job in expressing himself and defining what it is that a marketing scientist does.
Fred,
yes.
Fred, would you consider if he added one more word by putting an action verb in front of those two words, would make it more intriguing, I think.
Warmer?
Yeah, something. I think
Warmer.
by adding just an action, some kind of action verb, whichever one he feels comfortable with. I mean, I still think the two words are very, tell me more, but I'd love to hear.
it'd probably be customer obsessed.
Customer obsessed marketing scientist.
Yeah.
How about okay, so one of my pet peeves is I hate using the word customer, because the definition for a customer is somebody that buys once. I much prefer using the word client. It's a much more sophisticated term, and client implies that you have a customer that buys several times, which is what we all want. So what about client-centric?
Like that.
Okay, try that. Just try it. You got nothing to lose. Nothing at all to lose. We have nowhere to go but up in our opportunity search. So let's move on or move forward. I used some excerpts from a wonderful book, which I urged everybody to buy. He has 2 books out. The first book was called The Fred Factor, has nothing to do with me. It had to do with his postman, his mailman, that delivered unbelievable value just as a mailman. And then the follow-up to that was the encore effect. And so those of you, and everybody has this workbook, I want you to read on your own time the potential, purpose, passion, principles, perseverance, personalization, and the point. And at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, the point of our existence is to help move people forward in a positive way, whether it's in business, whether it's at home, whether it's in your church of choice, whatever it is. That's what we're here to do. We're here to help other people. We're here to help move people forward in a positive way. And you can immediately identify people that are benevolent and that do want to help you. And unfortunately, in these days, there's a lot of people that, excuse me, I got a call, that don't have the time to help. but I've always believed that you make the time, and there's a lot of satisfaction in helping people. So, excuse me, I keep getting a call. Probably the most important sheet that we were able to hand out to you or send to you was page 5. And I really, really hope that some of you took the time to be serious about this self-inventory quadrant. And the self-inventory quadrant I created back in the early 2000s when I was desperately searching for my new career. And coming out of 27 years in the men's clothing business, realizing at 47, 48, that I have a whole career ahead of me and that that's a dead-end industry, I did a tremendous amount of research on who I was and listing my assets, my liabilities, my talents and skills, and being able to take those 4 areas, as good or bad as they may be, as extensive or shallow as they may be, into my next career. And I did. And for almost 20 years, moved on to be a successful financial advisor, mostly for small business owners. And it was a wonderful ride. And I was able to sell my practice and move on to teaching tennis. So has anybody done the work during the week? This is really very, very introspective. And the other thing I suggested is print it off that quadrant or draw a copy of it and sit down with your significant other and have him or her fill in the quadrant on their own, and then sit down with your work and compare it, because so much of this, the brand, is about perception, is about how those iconic brands think of themselves and how they want their perception, self-perception, to be integrated into the perception of prospects or clients and make sure that they align. So, a BMW wants to be thought at as a cutting edge, a well-engineered vehicle. And so that's where all their marketing and all their advertising is, and so on, so on, and so forth. So Leon, data scientist, is huge now. Assimilate into your culture, but question, what was the culture phrase that preceded that? Your personal culture. The reason I'm in front of you for this interview is because I believe that my personal culture aligns with corporate culture. And I would be very comfortable being an asset in your company. Thank you. You're welcome. All right, so let's keep moving forward. So did anybody do the quadrant homework? Nope. And you all have my contact information, my email. If you want to, after this offline, even if it's a week, 2 weeks, send me that. And you want me to help you and work with you, I'll be happy to, as a real fan and partner to Jeff and his wonderful organization. So I'll be more than happy to help you. I've had a few people over the years that have participated in Career DFW reach out to me to help role play them, to prepare them for an upcoming interview. And it was very successful. As a matter of fact, I got a call yesterday from a woman that used to attend your meetings, and it was 2 years ago, and she got a significant job because of it. And she reached out to me and asked me if I remembered her. I did, because I spent about 2 hours on the phone prepping her for her interview. And she called to tell me that she has somebody in her life that she'd like to introduce me to. And this person wants to bring me into a very large healthcare organization to do branding workshops and coaching. So you see, you put good stuff out and you don't turn back. You just keep moving forward, and you never know what happens. It's like planting a garden. You plant it, you water it, and whatever grows, grows, and whatever doesn't grow, doesn't grow. So page 6, very quickly, we're talking about taking stock in yourself as your greatest asset in your success, the self-inventorying, creating a mission statement. You've all heard the phrase, the acronym SMART, goals: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely, or be able to time phase it. And then I'm big on acronyms, as you could tell by now. So baby yourself, be a better you. Last Friday, I talked about every year I come up with a word that I use for the year. Last year, in 2021, the word was savor. And I really forced myself to slow down and savor things that I took for granted. And it was very successful for me. And I would talk to other people about it, come up with a word. So this year, my word, and you could use the word if you feel it applies to you. In 2022, my word is better. Okay. Anything I do, I want to be better at. I want to be a better dad. And now, as of last Friday, a better granddad. My daughter just had a beautiful baby girl, and we are over the moon about that. So I want to be a better granddad, a better husband, a better tennis pro, a better businessman, just constantly improving myself, slowly, subtly, day by day by day, eating that elephant of better, one bite at a time. And I urge you all to consider that. Rounding out page 6, we talked about success. Did anybody take the time to define themselves and how they see success? Did you create a definition from your perception and your experiences? Most importantly, did you set that definition in motion? Okay, what I find, and I've worked for many, many years in this, in the job opportunity segment or market, and I find a lot of paralysis through analysis. A lot of people are going to do this. A lot of people are planning to do that. They're very weak words. They're not action words. If I'm planning, it's really not an action word. I want you to just go out and do things, make mistakes, learn from your mistakes, and don't hold back. You have nothing to lose. Apply for any opportunity that you feel you would be suited for. And you know what? The ancillary value of that is it's like batting practice. Get up to the plate. So you swing and miss. But train yourself to hit that curveball. You know, today, a lot of the HR and hiring managers are coming up with these, what they call in HR, these curveball questions that really, they're not looking for the answer. What they're looking for is how you answer them. They're looking for body language. So they're kind of like trick questions. And you got to be really careful, and you got to be confident that you can answer them. And don't focus into the actual answer. Focus more into staying calm and delivering, you know, the best quality answer you can. So,
Jerry, do you have a question?
Yes, at this point, I started feeling like I was going in circles, that the focus statement that I wrote, you know, like just picking on one, client satisfaction. Okay, that became a definition of success for me, but is that the right way to look at this?
well, okay, client satisfaction. I think you'll agree, everybody is pretty generic. I mean, you know, who doesn't want to satisfy client? You know, what's the opposite of that? So I would say that what you really want to be looking for is creating repetition in business. So you want to go beyond satisfying a client. I used the phrase last Friday that you don't have a can-do attitude, because anybody can do, anybody, but you have a will do. And we ended page 6, if you want to just jump back on that for the new attendees today. On the bottom of page 6, we talked about what is the common denominator of success. And because of our time restraints, I'm going to give you the answer. The common denominator of success is people willing to do the things that unsuccessful people are just not willing to do. And I used an example in sales that a unsuccessful seller or a good seller might make a follow-up call once or twice, 3 times. But a great seller will call and call and call, not to be persistent, because you have to assume there's a reason why they're not calling you back. And a lot of times I found in my sales career of 47 years, when I do get them on the phone, they finally thank me. Thank you for being perseverant, not persistent, perseverant, because you believed in your cause. You believed in helping me. And I've just been super busy, haven't had the time, but I want to do business with people that care about me. So I would try to rephrase that to passionate client care, something like that, and not use the word customer again. I shortened it so it didn't take so much time. No, but 3 to 5, 6 words is fine. But my focus is actually client satisfaction. But I like the word care. I really do. I think it's warmer, and I think it's less generic. So on the top of page 8, there's that acronym, put a serious spin in and on newness. How do you reinvent yourself every day? If I want to be better, I want to be better every day, every week, every month, until I get to the end of the year, and then step back. What I do is have meetings with myself. You know how often I have meetings with myself? Every night when my head hits the pillow. I review my day and I go, did I get my money's worth? It's something that I'm always saying to my wife, and you know, she laughs at it, but when she goes, how was your day? I go, I got my money's worth. I had a good day. I feel I've lived a good day of my life because of whatever I did. But it's only because of doing. It's only because I take action. Nothing happens by staying in bed and getting up and getting out. You know, 50% of success is showing up. How do you like that? You show up, something good's bound to happen. You don't show up, you're out of the game. So very quickly, first impressions. I could do a whole workshop on first impressions, but you have the elements there. And I'm just going to point out one thing, very important, that early on, as early on in this interview as you can, ladies and gentlemen, is be likable. And if you're not likable while you're on this call, learn how to be likable. Practice being more likable. Practice smiling. People want to do business with people they like. Put everything aside, product, price, delivery, blah, 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 blah. Because in today's world, they have a ton of choices. There's a ton of options. You pick a product and there's 100 competitors. What's going to separate you? What makes you unique? And one of the things simply is to be likable. You know what? I could buy these widgets from 50 other companies, but just like Jerry, he gives me a fair price, takes care of me. He does what he says he's going to do. Another very, very simple adage in life, but specifically in business. How many people in your life simply don't do what they say they're going to do? So promise less, deliver more. And that's that whole will-do attitude. That's that whole value-added service. And I want you to think about that, Jerry. I want you to think about developing something with value-added service. I'm not here to satisfy you. I'm here to meet and exceed your expectations as my client. A lot of people could meet your expectations, but exceeding them, that puts you in a different league. You know, in sales, my very first meeting I call my expectations meeting. And when I was in menswear or when I was a financial advisor, and even now as a tennis pro, when I first meet somebody, I have a expectations meeting. I want to know what your expectations of me is, of me as a vendor, of me as a blank, whatever, as a husband, as a father, whatever. And I'm going to tell you what my expectations are of you as a client, as a tennis student, as a financial client, as a men's clothing store. And you'll get people going, what do you mean? You know, why do you have to have expectations of me? Because our expectations need to gel. And I need to know what you're expecting of me so I could supersede them, not meet them. Does any of that make sense to anybody listening? And it shows a passion. It shows a passion for doing business. Thank you, Mike. Okay, page 9. Now we're moving forward. And I want to talk about how you sell yourself. How, you know, now that we've created this brand, and I'm going to finish, make sure I have at least 5 to 7 minutes at the end because I want to finish up with the business card branding. Jeff, please.
Okay, no problem. You got plenty of time.
Good. So what do I have till 11?
We can go to 11:15.
Perfect. Okay. So page 9, how do you sell yourself during a meeting? And I particularly want those of you that are on the call that don't have a AAA personality, that don't have a sales and marketing mentality to really take heed. So not in any particular order, chance to make a good first impression. And experts have said over the years that a first impression is indelibly created within the first 7 seconds of you making eye contact. So I'm not saying of you shaking hands or of you having a conversation, but within those first 7 seconds of the eye contact, we as humans scan the person we're meeting within 7 seconds. Like when you buy a loaf of bread at Tom Thumb, they scan the barcode. Same thing as humans. We're doing that scan. And what are we looking for in that 7-second scan? This is so important that you understand, but I'll put it out there as a question. Anybody want to play? What am I looking for in those first 7 seconds?
Likability.
Good. I like likability. Let's keep going. The eye contact, very important. But while I'm making eye contact in those 7 seconds, I'm looking for blank.
How you carry yourself?
Getting closer. Yes. I'm looking for things that I have in common with you. So a hiring manager is a female, and she's interviewing a female applicant. The female applicant walks in the door, and instantly the hiring manager, who's also female, says to herself, "Oh my God, I have that exact same scarf." Boom. There's
Professionalism or character?
Yes, but they're looking for things that are common, like, oh my God, and I could give you thousands of these, but it could be, oh my God, he looks just like my brother. It's good. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully her brother's getting out of prison in the next 6 months. No, I'm kidding. But there has to be some kind of a link, a tether of commonality. So that's why it's so important that you dress properly, and don't scoff at this, that you smell properly. A lot of times, and I've coached a lot of women, that some women just tend to put on too much perfume, or they tend to put on too much makeup. And I'm talking about within an interview. I'm not talking about going out on a date. But an interview, when you really think about it, is a business date. It really is, because you want to be likable and you want to be hired to join the company. Just like on a date, ultimately your goal is to create a relationship. Same thing. So be really careful about how you present yourself in those first 7 seconds of eye contact. of a firm handshake. And then as you get into your interview, always remember the adage that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and it is so important, particularly if you're in sales and marketing, you'll understand it's so important to be a great listener than a great speaker. You want to be able to listen to what the hiring manager or owner or division head, whoever's interviewing you, has to say, and then take that and maybe come back with a question. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I want you to think of an interview as an exchange, as a marketplace where you are buying and selling. Because if the geographical location isn't good for you, you're not a buyer or other things. So it's not a one-way street. And be prepared. Come with great questions. And one of the great questions could be, I've researched your company on your website and on the internet, and I'd like you to share a little bit more about what your culture is, what your culture means to the employees. Ask open-ended, in-depth questions. Don't ask, how many days of personal time off do I get? That's a terrible question because it's selfish. Okay, and I'm giving you an extreme. But come up with great, deep thought, open-ended questions and be prepared to ask any of those. I had one of my coaching clients on the phone. She lives in Northern California and she wants to move back to Dallas. So she's been interviewing with Dallas-based food companies, culinary companies. And we talked about this last week. And she asked that in the interview. And she's now has on her 3rd interview, whether or not she'll get the job. Because I prepared her with this ammunition. Because most of us don't go on many interviews and think of the hiring manager might conduct 200, 300 interviews a year, and you're on your 3rd. Again, batting practice. They're professional, and you're an amateur. You're in that Zoom seat. You're an amateur, and you don't know what to expect. So be prepared. Okay. One other phrase I want to throw out there, and I've been using it lately with my branding clients. Good fortune favors the bold. You might have heard that. Be bold. 2022, maybe that's your word, bold. Step out of your comfort zone. Do things that you never normally do because we're living in the new normal. So why can't you be a new normal? Create a common interest during the interview. You happen to see, I'm just going to use an example, that sitting behind the hiring manager are 30 bowling trophies. And you could bring up that, my son is really into bowling. Whatever it is, find something to connect. These hiring managers or the people that are interviewing you, they're people. They're people. They want to hire you. They want to do their job so they can move on. One other technique that I have found very, very valuable in an interview is I show up with a high quality portfolio and a high quality writing instrument. And I'll ask the interviewer at the very beginning, is it okay if I take notes? Now, you might have never thought of that, or you might think that what I just said is silly, but it's not. It goes to respect. Do you mind if I just jot down some notes? Because I want to be able to process all this during this 20-minute interview and maybe come back to you with questions. Is that okay? I mean, can I have your email or your direct phone line if I have any questions after the interview? These hiring managers eat that up. They love that. Okay. Page 11. Thank you, Jeff. So again, I like to use acronyms. And my acronym right there that I listed vertically is ENGAGE. And I would say that if I did use one word that does describe me, it would be to engage. I love people. I love contact, whether it's verbal contact, textual contact, physical, whatever it is. I love being in touch with people. I bolt out of bed every morning. And as I mentioned last Friday, and some of you may laugh at this, but my ultimate goal is to meet everybody in the world. I know it's a tall order. I'm doing pretty good though. The Asia thing with the billions of people, that's probably my Waterloo, but I'm doing pretty good domestically, meeting a lot of people every day. And you know what? On your opportunity search, keep expectations low. And when your head hits the pillow tonight, say to yourself, I want to meet at least 3 people a day. And you just start filling up your life with new people, never knowing where those people are going to take you. You don't know. But if you stay at home, you're not going to meet anybody. Get out there, whether it's sitting at Starbucks or, when I first started my financial service business, what I did is 3 times a week, I would take myself to lunch at a high-end restaurant. But I'd only take myself to lunch after 1:30. Anybody want to tell me why it would be after 1:30? My market was small business owners. The business owners, they'll go out to lunch at 11:30 or 11:45 or 12. They go out to lunch at 1:30, 2 o'clock. Okay, the employees go out to lunch at 11:30, 12 o'clock, because they got to be back in an hour. So I'd sit at the bar of a high-end restaurant for years. And I used to spend a lot of time at Houston's. It's no longer Houston's on Beltline in Addison. It's now going to be renamed, called Brentwood. And I just sit there with a very interesting book. I'd have a book and I'd have my food, and I'd sit over, and not be obvious. And lo and behold, 1, 2, 3 people would be either sitting there or come to sit there 1:30, 2 o'clock. Sometimes I'd eat lunch at 2:30. I derived about 30% of my client base from that effort. So anyway, it's all about being creative. It's all about thinking out of the box and stepping out of your comfort zone. And I ate well. Okay, so the E stands for, because I want to make sure we have enough time. Jeff, educate. So the intangibles of you presenting to a group or an individual or being in a interviewing situation, allowing them to be open to your style of presentation and of course content. I used to do training workshops for corporate trainers, and that's where this came from. But you can easily apply this to yourself personally. Did you get educate, Jeff? Yes. You're on mute.
Sorry, I'm not gonna type them in there. I was gonna type them in, but I said I'm not going to.
Okay. You've never been this difficult, Jeff. Why all of a sudden?
Okay,
Maybe-
I'll type them in.
No, maybe that's your word for 2022, difficult. I don't know. All right, educate. The N is for nurture. The G we talked about earlier, it stands for greet. How you initially greet somebody, meet somebody, make that initial 7-second first impression contact. A is accessible. You want to be accessible. You want to be a resource to all that you meet. Greatness. Another word, great, is overused in our society, in our lives. But I would love for you to take some time to define what greatness means to you. How could you live a great life? You may be living a great life. How could you live a greater life, a better life? And if we're not constantly striving to be better, to do better, then what happens ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, is we become stagnant. It's like a still pond. There's no movement, and things begin to die. Being a little dramatic, but I want to urge you to always create motion, always create action, and don't wait till somebody creates the action to you. In tennis, we say, don't let the ball play you. You play the ball. You move forward. You be aggressive in any sport. But today we're talking about the sport of life. And E goes back to what I mentioned earlier, exceed expectations, double E. We're not going to, on the next page, page 12, we're not going to get deep into it, but I wanted you to have this for you to read, 11 things to know. And I'll just kind of highlight a few things. Not quite sure where I got this from, but I thought it was brilliant. And I created these excerpts about 10 years ago, and they're as important today as they were 10 years ago. Know the difference between listening and learning. Know how the brain makes decisions about what to pay attention to and what to remember. Know the wide variety of learning styles. So, you meet somebody in an interview or at a networking function, you don't know these people. And the best way to get to know somebody is to ask provocative, compelling questions. So what I did when I became a financial advisor and I met somebody is I would ask this prospect, let's say, I would ask them a variety of questions, not pound them with questions, not pressure them, but just ask them. And I would keep asking them questions about themselves, about their family. I would take it as a stair step, like, they'd tell me about their family. And I'd say, well, really, that's really interesting. Tell me more about your daughter. And that's amazing that she's a concert pianist or whatever it is. And I just kept going and going and going until finally the nugget would appear. Anybody want to guess what that nugget is? I meet somebody, exchange some pleasantries, warm them up, so to speak, and start asking them wonderful questions. And then all of a sudden, the pendulum shifts to what? What do they do?
They want to know about you, maybe?
Thank you. Because you have made, think of the psychology of this, ladies and gentlemen. You have made this investment in them by asking them questions, by appearing to be interested in their life. How many times do you see somebody or meet somebody you know, or even a stranger, hey, how you doing? You don't really care how they're doing. And I tried it, I tested it. Somebody said to me, it was a couple of weeks ago, how you doing? I said, well, I got about 2 weeks left to live. Great, you know what? Let's try that. People don't listen. Be a great listener. It's such a valuable skill. Or if you are a great listener, it's a valuable talent. I want to tangent back to something on that, and you don't have to go back to it, on that quadrant for a second. There is a huge difference, ladies and gentlemen, between skill and talent. And when you're interviewing, I want you to be able to display and talk about your talents versus your skills. A skill is a learned behavior. Talent is innate. And I gave the example last week. I could tell a joke and you could laugh, but that doesn't mean I'm funny. The skill is joke telling. The talent is being funny. So take that with you. It's just so important for you to identify what your talents are. And again, I keep going back, and the constant, consistent thread here is find out what your intangibles are, because those intangibles will create that competitive advantage, will make you unique, will help you deliver a better brand. All right, continuing on page 12. Consider the learner is to be on a kind of hero's journey. Good stories work is a wonderful book that I read and devoured for the first few years of my financial service career, called Story Selling. And I, off the top of my head, can't remember. I think his first name was Mitch, but just type in Google search Story Selling, and he's written a few books. And the first one he wrote was for financial advisors. So of course, that got my attention. But learn how to tell a story, a quick story, not a long-winded story, not a 2-hour novel, but be able to tell a story in context to the question asked. So your response is just a little vignette, it's just a little story. That reminds me that 3 years ago when I was working on this project, it was a tremendous challenge, blah, blah, blah. And what you're doing is you're telling a story about how you overcame the challenges and that you would overcome those challenges if you were hired with a new company.
People put a couple comments in the chat.
Oh, good.
I don't know if
Good.
one of those two titles make sense, or one of those names sound familiar.
No, no, it's not Harry Mazie or Story Selling. It's somebody. No, it's not J.W. Hicks. I'm sorry, J.W. Dix. It's, I think it's Mitch. I think the guy's name was Mitch. I don't know. Keep Googling it until you find it. It's a navy blue cover of the book, and now it's certainly in paperback that you can buy. There it is. Bingo. Mitch Anthony. Thank you. Thank you, Jama. Mitch Anthony. And by the way, I have heard him speak twice in person. The company that I represented, Principal Financial Group, brought them in at our national recognition meetings, and he's a brilliant speaker. So definitely buy the book. And if he's got any YouTube videos, this guy, he's wonderful. And you want to surround yourself with those kind of resources, and of course, ultimately be a great resource yourself. Then I put in here a few pages on that first impression, going back to it, because it's just so important that you create that first impression, because you only get one chance, only get one. And practice with a significant other, a good friend, go to coffee and role play. And one of the things that I urge each and every one of you to do, and unfortunately, this is an electronic meeting, but find somebody in the gallery and reach out to them and say, hey, for whatever reason, I liked you. I liked your responses. I think we have things in common. Maybe there are 3 other marketing scientists on the call, and you guys could create your own little, probably not, but you guys could create your own little role play coffee hour and constantly be practicing. And the best way to practice is role play. And that's what I always suggest to my branding clients when they're about to interview. And I'll have a role play, we'll do a mock-up interview, and I'll ask them tough questions, like those questions that I'm really not looking for the answer. I'm looking for their facial response. I'm looking for their body language. And that's really important. And of course, in today's world, with everything being Zoom, it's difficult to detect somebody's body language, their whole body. So you got pretty much from the chest up, or maybe from the neck up. But even so, it's important that picture, whether it's the way you wear your hair, ladies, your makeup, whatever the case may be, your accessories, your jewelries, how you're dressing, all is part of it, because they can't see your whole body. And then as we head into the home stretch, and this is what I wanted to have the time. So I wanted to be able to take all of last week and all of this Friday's memorable business card. even though we're in a digital world, an electronic world, for some crazy reason, business cards are still important. So I've attached, can you just pull that up? It's one of the last 2 pages to the workbook. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, keep going. So this article in the Wall Street Journal back in May of 2008, the one right before that. Oh, I didn't include that. Okay. Or maybe it's after it. Maybe it was just out of order. You got one more page? That's it. Okay. I will scan it to you, Jeff. I'm sorry. You can send it out. But it's basically talking about how your business card means business. Now, this is back in 2008, but it's every bit as contemporary today as it was 14 years ago. So what we want to talk about on your business cards is I would ask you to have a blank slate. Forget about everything that you think you know about business cards or creating a business card. And I'm going to submit a few things to you. First of all, there's 2 sides to a business card. Does everybody agree? Give me a little thumbs up if you're on video. Yep. What are the 2 sides? And you can type that in your chat box. This is a trick question. What are the 2 sides to a business card? Nobody wants to play? Are the 2 sides, the back and the front? Most people would agree, right? So, because we're running out of time, the 2 sides to your business card is an inside and an outside card. Rusty says your side and their side, front and back. So I want you to open up your mind, and like a parachute, a mind only works when it's open. And let me submit to you that your next business card will have an inside, and that inside, which you might think of as the back of the card, but it's actually the inside of the card. That's what you present first. You present the inside. And what's on the inside? The who you are, the inside of your business card. So this is going to be backwards, yeah. So I was going to show my business card. So when I was with Principal as a financial advisor.
It came out okay. We could see it. It showed correctly.
Okay, so there you go. So putting the fun in fundamentals, that's my value statement as a teaching pro. And then just a nice little icon of a part of a tennis ball, and that's the inside. So when I hand my business card, I hand it to them inside out or inside first. So I want them to get this, and they go, oh, that's cute. That's funny. Tell me more. And that's what you want to do. And that's why I like where you're going, Leon, with the market scientist. And I would love for that to be on the inside of your card, and maybe add a superlative, passionate, whatever it is. Results oriented, whatever. And then on the outside of my business card, it's just all the boring stuff. My name, what I do, and my credentials. So getting back to what somebody said earlier about my LinkedIn QR code on the back. No, when you redo your card, Leora, put all that what on the outside of the card. Put the who on the inside of the card. And when you hand it to people, they're going to look at it. And instead of looking at just some, your name and your cell phone number, and maybe you have a website, boring stuff. Nobody cares. But all of a sudden, oh, that's something different. That's something unique. That's something I'd like to learn more about. Tell me more about you as a market scientist. And I'm sorry I keep referring to that, but you're one of the few that participated. You elicited interest. So I like it. Leora, who are your contact who you are with contact details The back is my LinkedIn. Okay, so again, it's not about who you are. And how we started all this is I wanted you to come up with 3 to 6 words that describe who you are. That becomes the inside of your card, and that is what you're going to use to craft your value statement. Because people hire you for value. People hire you to solve problems. How much value could you bring to the company? That's your job, to sell them on the value that you could bring to the company. Because that's what it's all about. Why do you have friends? People that are in your life because they bring value to you and you bring value to them. And you'll find that if you have a friend that brings no value to you, eventually that relationship dissipates. You know, family, okay, we're stuck with family, even though my son hasn't brought any value to me in 25 years. He's still my son and still love him. But I'm talking about in business. If you approach a prospect, what's a prospect? It's somebody that has the potential to do business with you or is qualified to do business with you. And their perception is you can't bring any value to them or their company. They're not interested. So within the beginning of a presentation or the beginning of an interview, you need to establish that you're a value-oriented person, value service-oriented, will-do attitude, not just can-do attitude. So I'm going to open up the chat lines now to, we're at about 11:10, to any questions you might have, any feedback. And
Jama asked a question. What are your thoughts about putting your photo on business cards?
that's my thought. Those of you who didn't hear my thought. Now, there is 1 or 2 industries that promote photos on a card. And the number one is the real estate realtors. Every realtor that's ever approached you put their picture. The problem is, I'll look at the card and I'll go, oh, is that your sister? Oh, who's on the card? Because they haven't updated their picture. And the card was from 12 years ago. And they don't look anything like it. And I think it borders on being a little tacky. And the other industry is the hair industry. I notice when I meet a hairstylist, they'll put their picture on. And maybe there's a few other, but other than that, no.
I used to live in Rochester, New York, and everybody who worked at Eastman Kodak, of course, had their photo because they printed their business cards on photo paper. But
yes, and look at where Kodak is today.
right.
Now you can't take a picture if you wanted to, or it's overexposed. Okay, good, got it. Thank you. Keep going.
Anybody
This is
else?
our
If you
time
have a
together. We got
question-
a few minutes, and then I'm on to my next Zoom call. So
If anybody has any questions, you're welcome to unmute your mic, ask away.
or comments or feedback.
No, hi, Fred, this is Leon. I enjoyed this. This is very motivational, and I've done a lot of what you've done, but this is our first meeting. I think we've met you before in the past, but
You look familiar. I'm not sure if you've been to one of my other workshops, but that's great. Thank you. For
yeah,
your
this is
compliment.
very helpful. So I appreciate it.
Good. And again, you have my contact information. If you don't, Jeff will be happy to give it to you. And reach out to me, whether it's an email, a text. You want to do a Zoom call or a video chat or Marco Polo, whatever. And I'm here to help you. Okay. I have no agenda other than helping you. Rusty, can you explain the self-inventory quadrant? What do you do after completing the list? Great question. So, by the way, has anybody tackled that quadrant? No? Okay. So the whole purpose of it is to create an X-ray of yourself. Okay. And what you'll find is when you start listing your assets and you start listing your liabilities, you'll find that in some cases, depending upon what opportunity you want, depending upon where you are in your business life, the assets could be perceived as liabilities. I'll give you a perfect example, Jerry. You list an asset of being funny, but frankly, being funny as an accountant could be perceived as a liability. It could be perceived that all you like to do is talk and kid around, and that's not what we're hiring you for. I'm just saying.
Right.
Okay. So when you list the assets, these are indigenous assets that make you unique and special. And you have to come to grips with your liabilities. Hey, I'm shy or whatever. But the interviewer might not see being shy as a liability depending upon the context and the job that they're interviewing for. So what this is great for is it's like an X-ray, and it shows you who you are. Now, very quickly, talent and skill. Most people don't have a lot of talent or talents. A lot of people, it's easy to acquire skills. You can't acquire talent. If you have it, it's innate. You're born with it. And bring it out, but you have to identify that that's a talent of mine. The only way you identify talents in you is by doing and making mistakes and saying, wow, I can't believe it. You know what? I always wanted to play piano, and I finally decided to take lessons and play piano. And within 6 months, I can't believe that that's a talent. Well, you wouldn't know it's a talent unless you actually pursued it. You got my contact information, very helpful. Can you explain the self-inventory? I just did. We talked about the photo. Anything else before we wrap up, ladies and gentlemen? I want to thank you for your time today. I certainly hope you got value out of our time together. And I want to wish you a very healthy, happy, and successful 2022. Consider the 2022 word of better, and baby, the acronym, be a better you. And with that, if there's nothing else, have a wonderful weekend. I'm Fred Shlesinger, and I'm here to help you.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you very, very much. Great information. As always, it's just a pleasure having you with us every week. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Take good care. God bless you all.
Right. Let me, a couple closing slides and we'll get out of here today. Let's see here. So next Friday, our speaker is Elizabeth Line. She's going to talk about job seeking post-pandemic 2022. So please be sure to join us next Friday at 9:30. If you have not put your 30-second reductions into the Zoom chat window, please do so. For those people on Facebook, if you want to put your information in the comment field, I will go and delete it so it won't be out there after the meeting's over. But please put your information in the chat window. That's the way I can update the roster. That way I will make sure you get a copy of the handout today. If you didn't get it, I will get you Fred's contact information. So all that'll be in the email that I put out this afternoon. Join Career DFW and Career USA. We're putting on training 4 days a week. Hopefully you'll join us. Next Tuesday, Kurt Vondermatter will be with us. He's a retained search consultant. He pays LinkedIn $10,000 a year for the full-blown recruiting package, and he'll show us what it looks like from the back end. So he's going to show us how he searches for you. Next Wednesday, as we've mentioned before, the practice interview team, there'll be an actual practice interview that you can watch. Next Thursday is Networking Thursday, being the 4th Thursday of the month. We have a different speaker who will talk all about networking. Networking is networking, but everybody talks about it from a little bit different point of view. So this session has been recorded. It will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel. On the Career USA YouTube channel, click on playlist, and the very bottom, instead of clicking on the video, down below where you see that red arrow, click where it says view full playlist, and then up will come a list of all the different titles and topics where you can find the different topics that people have talked about, and you can go back and watch them. Please note that any of them that you see from the North Dallas group, usually you need to go about 25 to 30 minutes in so that you get that information. So that's where the presentation would actually start. Thank you very much for joining us today, everybody. Have a great weekend. It looks like it's finally gotten above 32 degrees. So hopefully warm up a little bit this afternoon. The sun's out. So have a great afternoon. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you all next week.